Super Hot was a playable highlight reel of only the most badass action movie scenes. Time only moved when you did, which gave you enough versatility to improvise a plan to murder a room full of red guys without taking a single bullet. Shootouts played out like puzzles as you scavenged the environment for tools you could use to throw, shoot, or use as impromptu shields. Clearing a room unscathed and then seeing it play back in real time at the end never got old and was the 1-2 punch that made Super Hot one of the best games of 2016.
Super Hot. Super Hot.
Abzu put the template it borrowed from its Sandy sibling to good use. The gorgeous visuals and incredible soundtrack worked in tandem to paint a beautiful world that used scale and color to consistently set up awe-striking moments from beginning to end. Abzu stuck with me for those reasons, which made it an easy pick for the 9th spot on this list. Titanfall 2 was one of the leading acts in the year of the first-person shooter. The passable story was overshadowed by the varied action, fast gunplay, tight pacing, and superb level design that brought it well above the first-person shooter campaign standard. The multiplayer half maintained the thrilling Titan fights and parkour-laced shooting that, along with the progression system, kept me coming back. With a brilliant multiplayer offering and an engaging campaign, Titanfall 2 was a well-rounded shooter worthy of playing both online and off. Watch Dogs 2 executed on the potential that the first game teased. Hacking was streamlined and more expansive, and the new gadgets made breaking into enemy bases a little more varied and involving. Cynicism was cast aside in favor of the goofy, likable cast that went above and beyond the poor hacker stereotypes they were almost destined to be. The San Francisco Bay Area was also the perfect setting that fit the game's tech themes and diverse cast. Like Assassin's Creed 2, Watch Dogs 2 was a textbook example on how a sequel can fulfill the shortcomings of an ambitious but flawed first game. Another formulaic modern-day Far Cry game could have burned out the franchise, so it's good that Far Cry Primal shook up the series in a few key ways. The time period was not only visually stunning and thematically refreshing, it also forced Ubisoft to rethink how a Far Cry game could be made while staying true to its core pillars. Stealth, combat, and crafting were faithful to its predecessors, but were linked to its setting in a way that the newer entries could not emulate. Primal's systems bonded you to its land and required you to take advantage of it to survive, a fitting parallel to prehistoric life. Far Cry Primal was a great game in its own right and showed how flexible a Far Cry game could be. Dishonored 2 successfully maintained and built on what made the first game so brilliant. The open-ended levels respected the player's intelligence and free will by fostering a plethora of different approaches and playstyles. Missions could be tackled a number of different ways too, letting players find and choose the how, when, where, and even the who, as Dishonored 2 had 2 protagonists, each with unique abilities that changed how the game played. Outstanding level design and a diverse set of powers helped put player choice above everything else, and also put Dishonored 2 above most other games in 2016.
Welcome to the final mystery, Jindosh.
Inside was a game that begs to be discussed. The grim, oppressive world strung together incredible moment after incredible moment and let you infer what was going on without a word of dialogue or exposition, a refreshing break from the more traditional narrative structure that most other games have. Piecing together your own story rivaled its fantastic puzzle design. Its ingenious environmental puzzles didn't give you any hints, but weren't ever frustrating due to how the game subtly pushed you to solve them one step at a time, thus building up to a satisfying conclusion. Restraint made Inside's story, puzzles, music, and visuals so special, and proved that sometimes less truly is more. Overwatch was already one of the best games of 2016 when it shipped. However, Blizzard's extensive updates have smoothed over the game's few rough edges and have also added a ton of free content, rebalanced the roster, and introduced holiday events that helped keep the game alive. Consistent updates supplemented how fun and positive Overwatch was during most matches, as it highlights your contributions to the team over your poor kill-death ratio. This positive attitude was reflected in the entire eccentric cast, all of whom were pleasing to look at and play as regardless of skill level. With over 200 hours logged and no end in sight, Overwatch was the best multiplayer game of 2016 and is undoubtedly one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time. Doom was all about aggressive, thoughtful gunplay and eviscerating boring shooter tropes like linear corridors, regenerating health, and limited weaponry. Wide combat arenas always gave you the space to keep moving, sizable health and ammo pickups could only be punched out of weakened enemies, and your mini armory of upgradable weapons gave you the tools to murder any combination of Hell's finest without the inconvenience of reloading. The fast-paced, pitch-perfect metal score reinforced the quick tempo and hellish tone and felt integral to how good Doom was as a whole. Gorgeous visuals and a witty, self-aware narrative rounded out Doom's campaign and sadly made the multiplayer, while good, pale in comparison. Doom's brilliant decision to channel its roots instead of modern shooter cliches made it the best first-person shooter of 2016 and one of the greatest first-person shooters of all time. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End felt like it was the culmination of everything Naughty Dog had learned over the past decade. It still had lovable characters and witty, charming dialogue, but it also showed a restraint and maturity that was mostly absent from its pulpier predecessors. Nathan Drake's final adventure was more about his personal relationships than it was about seeking treasure, even though that treasure mystery was the best in the series. Incredible acting, realistic animation, and the lack of load screens complemented the well-written story, which was capped off by one of the most heartwarming and satisfactory endings to a series in video game history. Gunplay and platforming also saw a bevy of improvements, both of which were sped up and made more fluid to match the pace of the swashbuckling action set pieces. These enhancements also benefited the game's fun and continually growing multiplayer, an unsung mode that understandably gets overshadowed by its campaign. Uncharted 4 grew up while still holding on to and improving what made the franchise great in the first place. This not only made it the best Uncharted game, but also the best game of 2016. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.
You good?
Yeah. Let's get out of here.